Hey guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the Logitech Bluetooth Easy Switch keyboard. This is also sold as the Logitech K811 keyboard, which is primarily a Windows keyboard, but it works across platforms. But this is designed primarily for Apple devices. So we have keys specific to Apple devices, such as Mac and iOS. So this will also work on the Apple TV, which with the new software update now supports Bluetooth keyboards. So the Logitech Easy Switch keyboard is available for $99 and has some interesting features here. Now this, they call it Easy Switch because you can pair up to 3 devices to the keyboard and you can quickly switch between them just by tapping a few of these dedicated controllers. We've seen this with the K760, a product I reviewed before. That's a solar powered keyboard, meaning it charges via solar, but this charges via USB, so you can charge this via USB instead of solar or replacing the batteries. But the big deal here is that this is a wireless backlit keyboard. So it's all aluminum. It's an aluminum construction with a plastic back panel, but it's got an aluminum faceplate, which is better than most Logitech keyboards, which have been plastic. So it kind of gives you the experience of the Apple keyboard, which is all aluminum, but you get some backlighting, and of course you can easily switch between devices. So to me, this is a very compelling product. I've always wanted a backlit keyboard on my Mac, but Apple has never supplied one. Certainly they do on their laptops, but now you can get one for your desktop. So I thought this was pretty interesting, and I like the idea that I don't have to swap out my batteries. I can always charge it via a micro USB cable. All right, so let's go ahead and unbox this and take a look to see what we get. So here we have this tray with a little pull tab. So we're going to pull on that to pull the whole tray out. There we go. Alright, so we're going to lift this up. There is the keyboard wrapped in plastic. So you can see we have this black plastic back panel. We'll set that aside for now and take a look to see what we get below. So here we have our packet, which contains our micro USB. I'm not sure, this is micro USB. Yeah, this is micro USB charging. And we also have our literature. So we have some information on how to set this up, how to use it, what each button does, etc., etc. So you get everything you need there, and you have your other information. So that's going to do it in terms of our accessories and packaging. So let's get to the keyboard. All right, so let's go ahead and peel this plastic off. It slides right out. Now to get a closer look at the keyboard, you can see we have a pretty familiar design here. It's got about the same footprint of the Apple keyboard. The front panel here is aluminum, so it does add some rigidity to it, but otherwise it's mostly plastic. So you can see we have this glossy plastic up top and along the sides. On the back you have that matte finish plastic. On the back you also find your pairing button here for pairing this to other devices. You also have our on and off switch along the side. Back here you have your micro USB charging port. And you can see if you look in profile, it's actually a fairly shallow device. It's not deeply angled. It's otherwise pretty flat-footed compared to the Apple keyboard, which has more of an angle. So in fact, if we place this down side by side, you can see that the Apple keyboard has a more steeper rake to it. It's shallower down here at the base, taller up top. This is more flat, so it's actually taller at the bottom and shallower at the top. Now the keys themselves are a little taller than what Apple does with its keyboard. So if you look at the keys on the Apple keyboard, you can see they're a little shallower. So there is more travel here to these keys. So if you like that, you may prefer this design. Now if we compare the Logitech keyboard to the Apple keyboard, they have made some changes here. They've removed some features, added some features in order to accommodate both iOS and Mac OS X, as well as some of the features of this keyboard. So for example, we still have our escape keys here, but the screen brightness keys on F1 and F2 have been moved to F7 and F6. We also have these switchers here for switching between Bluetooth devices on F1, F2, and F3. We have mission control on F4. It's on F3 on the Apple keyboard. They've eliminated the launcher key on the Logitech keyboard. They also have not screen brightness, but keyboard brightness keys here. So you have the keyboard brightness on F8 and F9. The media controls have also been reduced. So we have play, pause, but we don't have skip forward or skip backward. We have all of our volume controls as well as volume up, volume down, and mute. And you have your eject button. So pretty similar, but some changes in order to make this work with iOS. All right, so our next step here is to power this on. So let's just switch this on. And you can see we have our pairing keys light up here, so it's letting us know that these keys still need to be paired to Bluetooth devices. And actually, if we turn the lights off, you can see the backlighting. So let's go ahead and do that. Now the backlighting is responsive, so there is an ambient light sensor in here that will automatically adjust the brightness of the keyboard to the ambient lighting condition. So for example, if you have your desk light on, it doesn't need to be on, or if you're not using it for a while, it will automatically turn off like it did right there. So if we tap the keyboard, it'll wake it up again. You can also manually control this with the controls right on the keyboard. So we can dim it all the way down or bring it all the way up. Now the overall effect is very similar to what Apple does with the MacBook Pro. So you have that same white lighting through all of the keys. You can see all the keys are outlined in that white. It looks pretty good. It's very bright, very effective, and you can even see that the Logitech logo lights up at the top. Now, as I said, you can pair up to 3 Apple devices to this keyboard, and in order to do that, you kind of have to assign them to one of these 3 keys. In order to activate the pairing process, a lot of times it's already doing that by default, but if you already have all the keys assigned, you'll have to hit this pairing button on the back of the keyboard, which I showed you earlier. So basically, all I have to do is hit that, and you can see all the keys will start flashing. Now, if I want to assign number 1 to my iPad, all I have to do is hit number 1. So I go to my iPad, go to Settings, and it automatically sees the Logitech keyboard. In this case, Logitech K811. So apparently that's what Logitech is calling this keyboard. So the K810, I guess, is for the multi-platform version, while the K811 is for the Apple products. So all I have to do is tap on that, and it will automatically pair to the device. So you can see it's connected. And in fact, if you press the home button on the keyboard, it takes you to the home screen. If you double tap, it takes you to the launcher. If you tap and hold, it takes you to Siri. What's the weather like today?
It doesn't look so nice today. Down to 12 degrees and snowing.
All right, next up is the iPhone. So again, I'm in pairing mode here. I'm going to hit number 2, and you can see Logitech K811. I'm going to click that, or tap that, and there we go. We're connected, and it's simple as that. If I hit the home button, it takes me to my home screen, and of course I can do everything else. My launcher, and Siri. What's the weather like tomorrow?
Some bad weather coming up tomorrow. Down to 12 degrees and snowing.
Same story as always. All right, so next step is the Mac. Now, OS X is pretty simple as well. So what I'm going to do here is go right to my Bluetooth control up here at the top of the screen. I'm going to go to, I can see my Logitech K760, which is the old one. So I'm going to have to go to Set Up Bluetooth Devices, and it will automatically scan for them, but I have to be in pairing mode, so let me hit that pairing button again, and I'm going to tap number 3 on the keyboard, and it sees it again, Logitech K811. I'm going to click Continue, and it's going to ask me to type in a number on the keyboard, just to confirm. Now with the Mac, you have some function keys specific to the Mac. So for example, you have Mission Control. Now the home button here does not work on the Mac, but you do have the screen brightness controls which work. You also have your keyboard brightness controls and your media controls such as play, pause. That should bring up iTunes. You have your volume controls and you have your mute control. And you do have your eject button if you do have a CD drive connected to your Mac. So with all my devices connected, I can now quickly switch between any one of them. So for example, if I want to get back to my iPad here, I just hit number 1. You can see it flashes until it connects to the iPad, which is pretty quickly. You can see the virtual keyboard does go away once it's done that. You can also invoke the virtual keyboard just by tapping this button. You're still connected to it and you can still use the keyboard, but if you want the virtual keyboard, you can do that as well. So here we go, start typing. There you go, and I can tap the home button. I can double tap to bring up my launcher and then touch to launch any app I want. You get the idea here. You can also go back to my iPhone just by tapping number 2. Connects to my iPhone. I can hit the space bar to wake it up there. Hello, iPhone. There you go. Hit the home button. Takes you back to the home screen. And you can go to your launcher and you can launch Siri. So you can see everything works pretty quickly. You also can go right to your Mac. Connects to the Mac. You can see we got a connected badge on the screen. There you go. So it works pretty well. I definitely like how quickly it switches. So it's great, for example, if you have all of this on your desk and you want to quickly switch between them for productivity, that's something you can do with this keyboard. So in conclusion, I'm a big fan of what Logitech is doing with the Easy Switch keyboard, or the K811. I think they've done absolutely everything I've wanted Logitech to do. I've wanted a backlit keyboard. I don't want the solar charging because it doesn't work in a it doesn't work very well in my environment because I use my keyboard in a keyboard tray, so it doesn't get exposed to a lot of light. So that hasn't worked out too well for me. And I like the fact that I don't have to swap out batteries. I can just connect a micro USB cable, which I always have connected to my computer anyway. So that's fantastic. To me, that's a better solution than opening up my keyboard to change the batteries or putting it in sunlight to recharge it. So I think that's a better solution. And of course, we have backlighting, which is something I've been waiting years for on the Mac. Nobody has produced that, certainly not Apple. Logitech has finally come through with a Apple dedicated keyboard with the same size and form factor and very similar design and build quality to the Apple keyboard. Certainly not the rigid unibody design, but pretty close in terms of its feel and look. And it's also pretty rigid, so I'm definitely a big fan of what Logitech has done with the design and certainly the features. So $100 is pretty expensive for the keyboard, but with all the features it adds, I definitely think it's worth it. So that's going to do for me, guys, in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.